Hi, John here with padprinters.com. I just want to talk kind of briefly about a couple of different additives or chemicals that we have that can help you with some pad printing problems. We get questions all the time. There's a variety of parts sitting here on the table made out of different materials. So you have ABS part right here. This is another part which is from the styrene family. This is a fire alarm base. Here's another part that's made with polycarbonate ABS blend. This is the body of a toothbrush, which is probably polypropylene, maybe polyethylene. Here you've got a couple of dental floss containers that are polypropylene, a large syringe barrel that's polypropylene. This is a part that has a soft touch paint on it over the surface of remote control that we've test printed. So a lot of times people call and say, well, can I print this? And one major question we get is, can we print on polypropylene and polyethylene without pre-treatment? The answer is normally no. The way that we determine if something needs to be pre-treated or not is with the use of what's called a Dyne Pen. So a Dyne Pen is a pen that has a dye in it that is set for a certain surface energy. And if you notice, this pen says 38 dyne per centimeter. Dyne is a unit of measurement that's used to determine the surface energy of different parts. And the way that you use a Dyne pen, you can get these from us, to test to see if a material needs to be pre-treated or not, is you take the pen, you shake it, and then you take the plastic material that you want to print on, and you put the surface of the Dyne pen on the material, make a line, you count 1001, 1002. You see that that's remained a solid red line. That indicates that this material is at least 38 dyne per centimeter, meaning that it does not need to be pre-treated. So there are lots of materials I mentioned, like polypropylene, this dental floss container. I do the test here, and you can see how that line disappears. When it beads up like that, that means that it is an energy lower than 38 dyne. That means it does need to be pre-treated. So what do you do if you have to pre-treat a material like this, or if you're dealing with toothbrushes? You can see there the line is breaking up, it's beading up, not remaining solid. Or this material. You can see there again how the line disappears. So all of these materials here that I've tested, when the Dyne pen beads up like that, that indicates it requires pre-treatment. When it remains solid, that means it does not. So if you have to pre-treat, how can you do that? Well, normally in automated systems we use corona pre-treatment, plasma, or flame, and that's expensive. Corona pre-treatment or flame start at about $12,500 to integrate that with your printer. Normally what we would do is, on a machine like the Micro 90, we'd put a rotary table here in front, so you're loading a part and it goes to a position where it gets pre-treated, then printed, and then comes back for unloading. If you can't afford to, or you don't have the volume to be able to do that, there's a couple things you can try. One of them is PA1 Adhesion Promoter. So PA1 Adhesion Promoter is an additive that's made by Tosh that you put in your ink, just like when we were mixing ink in a previous video. You would add that to the ink before you put thinner in, and it's an adhesion promoter. It helps that ink to stick better to plastics that are close to, but just below 38 dyne per centimeter. So if they're close, they kind of hold, but then they bead up, you maybe can get away with PA1 Adhesion Promoter. If you can't afford flame or corona pretreatment, one of the things some people use is just a handheld blowtorch with a fan nozzle on it, like you get at a hardware store. That's somewhat dangerous and not really recommended. It's better to integrate and properly guard things so that your operators don't get hurt. Short term, if you're doing a low volume of parts though, and you want to use a liquid primer, there is this material that's called P2 primer. This is a chemical from Marabou, P2 primer. So what you do there is you take, wearing gloves and a tissue, you would wipe the area that you want to pre-treat. I'm going to use it in pre-treating and cleaning the part at the same time. So I'm gonna pre-treat this area with the primer. I'm wiping it on, and I'm gonna allow it to dry. And as the person holding the camera will attest, the stuff smells. And it's really not a super safe chemical to have around. But if you have to use it, you can get around pre-treating a lot of times if you're using it. So, having said that, we've wiped these now. We'll let them dry, make sure it's dry. This one I can still see on there. And we'll try that Dyne test again on this part now that I pre-treated it and see what happens. So now you can see I pre-treated it with the P2 primer, and that brought the surface energy up to where it needs to be, so that now when I print on it, I'm going to have ink stick instead of just come off. Let's test this toothbrush where we tested it before. It beat it up. Now it's remaining nice and solid, so good indication that pre-treatment worked. Finally, this part. So that's much better than what it was. Still probably needs more pre-treatment because it's still beating up and not really a solid line. So there's a couple things that you can use if you have parts that you need to pre-treat. You can use maybe the Adhesion Promoter if you're close to the minimum of 38 dyne per centimeter. And if you want to be a little more sure and you feel like using this chemical, P2 primer is out there and you can use it. And last but not least, people have bad prints sometimes. And there are some plastics, ABS and some styrenes, polycarbonate, where if you misprint them, we have a chemical that's called XVS plastic cleaner. This is effective for removing the print from ABS parts, polycarbonate and ABS polycarbonate blends. If you have a misprint or a mistake, a lot of times you can remove the print. It may leave a slight latent image, but in most cases you can overprint and it's not even visible where the defect was before. So those are 3 different chemicals we have available if you'd like to try those or if you need them. Thanks.